Is God real? Well, there are certainly clues that could lead us to believe that God is real. Like a detective looking for clues at the scene of a crime.
By Andy Weinman, email article to a friend. Is God real? That is the big question. If God is not real, then you can play by whatever rules you like. But if God is real, then it is a whole new ballgame.
If God isn't real, you can play by whatever rules you want to. You know, whatever rules that you make up, you can play by those rules. As long as you don't hurt anybody or get caught.
It is interesting to note that the vast majority of people do believe that there is a God. George Barna, who makes a living by asking people questions like this, found that 3 out of 4 adults think that there is a God. Ask 4 friends and check it out for yourself. Of course, the reality of God cannot be settled by majority vote. How can we know if God is real? Wouldn't it be nice if we could pick up the telephone and give him a call? Or drive by his house just to see if his car was in the driveway? Fortunately, there are better ways to address this question.
God is infinite and we are finite. Finite creatures cannot fully comprehend an infinite God. If we could comprehend an infinite God, we ourselves would have to be infinite.
Consider this perspective. Since God is infinite and we are finite, if God wanted to make himself known, he would have to make his presence clear. So, are there any signs that point to the reality of God? Winfried Corduan put it this way: we can look at the world and see if the world is constructed in such a way that it is reasonable to believe that there must be a God, just as the hunter follows the trail of an animal that he has yet to see. Paw prints, clumps of fur, broken branches. We are looking for the fingerprint of God in the physical world.
There's a way that the world seems to work together that says intelligent designer. There's a difference between an accidental occurrence and something that seems to have purpose and meaning. When I look at the world, I see God's fingerprints. I know there's people who look at the world and see random chance and, I guess, evolution at work. I see evolution, but in the micro sense, not in the macro sense.
Various signs, lines of reasoning, have been suggested over the last few centuries. Let us briefly consider 3. First, the world seems to work according to the universal law of cause and effect. That is, every observable effect must have had an initial push by some agent or cause. Everything, a highly scientific term, that we observe is dependent upon other things for its existence. For example, children are dependent on parents and the earth is dependent on the sun. Thinking all the way back to the first event, it could be asked, who was the cause? This is where it appears that there must be a being that is uncaused. Philosophers like to call this a necessary being. Could that be God?
The Bible says, "Come, let us reason together." And that's what I'm trying to do, is reason with my listening audience. Now, if we could pull back for a moment and just think, there's got to be an initial cause for things. Now, you've got your choice. The Big Bang, things just exploded into existence, but you still have a problem there. The big major problem with the Big Bang is, where did the elements come from that go boom? Where did they come from? Where did those hydrogen atoms come from? Hydrogen atoms are complex as well. They don't just pop into existence without a cause. You need a cause. You need an agent to put them there. I'm saying, and many Christians are saying, that God is that cause.
A second sign that should be considered is what scientists today are calling the marks of intelligent design. The suggestion is that the universe exhibits purpose, design, and intent. This is not a new idea. William Paley suggested that if you were walking through a field and found a watch on the ground, that you would recognize it as a piece of machinery that had purpose and did not simply grow in the forest like plants and trees. A rational conclusion would be that someone intentionally built the watch. The universe is infinitely more complex than a watch, and as a result points that much more to an intelligent designer.
There is a necessity for an initial cause. Now, Brian Sapient and many like him will say, well, the universe is eternal. Just always was. But you see, that smacks against science and logic. It smacks against the very foundation of thermodynamics, which is a scientific law, the law of entropy. Things are breaking down. Things are slowing down, losing energy. And if things are losing energy, then they had energy, a prime point of maximum power, and now they're getting older. So you can have questions. There's lots of questions. But to eliminate God out of the equation is just blatant foolishness. That's why Christians say with confidence that those who deny God are fools. They're fools. They're playing a fool's game. You're denying a God, the first cause. You have a big problem, evolutionists and atheists. You have a big problem. Things don't just happen by accident. Things don't just pop into existence without an initial cause.
The third mark has to do with the moral foundation of the universe. C.S. Lewis referred to this as the law of human nature. This is not to say that people everywhere are in agreement on all moral values, but that everyone does tend to live by certain common moral principles. For example, people and cultures have different ideas about when it is appropriate to take another person's life, but no one, that would be considered sane, would hold that indiscriminate cold-blooded murder for no reason would be appropriate. It appears that humanity has been intentionally created with an internal moral compass.
How do you explain for the moral law that we seem to all share? We seem to all have the sense that murder, senseless, cold-blooded murder, is wrong, no matter where you go on planet Earth. It's just wrong.
All three of these marks appeal to our common sense and fit observations that can be made about the world. Everyone may not be completely convinced by this reasoning, but it seems to make more sense to believe that God is real than that He is not. If that is true, then maybe there are other things that can be known about God. Why don't you try to pick up the trail and see where it leads?
One of the reasons why I'm a Christian is because though I'm held responsible for the things that I've done in my life, the God of the Holy Bible offers mercy instead of justice. And if anyone were to stand before God, we are guilty. Truly guilty. If we're honest with ourselves, we're guilty. We're guilty, guilty, guilty. Guilty of sin, guilty of hurting other people, guilty of being selfish. Guilty. And if we were to stand before God, He would drop the hammer on us. But through Christ, we're given grace. Through Christ's death on the cross, we are given entrance into the presence of God. That's why I'm a Christian.